So recently, tennis legend Martina Navratilova caused waves in the LGBTQI community by stating her view that forcing female athletes to compete against what is ultimately a biological male is unfair and it's cheating and it's insane, given the average physical differences in strength, musculature and bone density between males and females. She said in a recent interview, I promised to keep quiet on the subject till I'd properly researched it. Now that I've done that, if anything, my views have strengthened. Hundreds of athletes who have changed gender by declaration, limited hormone treatment, have already achieved honours as women that were way beyond their capacities as men. For adults, the differences are profound. A male athlete who has gone through puberty is going to have a basic physical advantage over women, no matter how many female hormones he takes. This point is highly clarified by the fact that there's no controversy about trans men competing in men's sports, and there's actually very clear positive efforts to let them. But letting someone who is ultimately a biological male compete for money or prizes against females it tilts the competition in the favour of the male. It's unfair and it's unsporting. Now, despite these facts, several trans activist groups have decided to go on a witch hunt of Navratilova. One activist group called Transactual responded by saying, "We are pretty devastated to find out Marina Navratilova is transphobic." That's a way to hit the point home. But the main group of people who have gone after her are actually a group called Athlete Ally, who until recently proudly housed Navratilova on their advisory board. They said in a recent interview that her comments about trans athletes were transphobic, that they were based on a false understanding of science and data, which is fucking ironic coming from them, that she was perpetuating dangerous myths and contributing to the ongoing discrimination and disproportionate violence towards trans people. They actually finished their statement off by saying, "Trans women are women, period." That's really bad wording, man. Sid Zeigler, the founder of Outsports, which is a massively successful and trailblazing LGBTQ sports website, had this to say on Athlete Ally. "This is nothing more than a publicity stunt to gain attention for an organisation whose sole purpose is to gain more attention for themselves. If they had any actual interest in making real headway, they would have worked with Martina, a legend in that community, to find some form of common ground." And I'm really inclined to agree with Sid. This kind of feels like a sort of emotional response, in the same way that the Foreign Office has opted to remove Shamima Begum's British citizenship. A bit of an emotional propelled move there. There's not too much thinking going on, but then that's the British government for you. So naturally, Navratilova has rejected these accusations of transphobia, saying what seems to be a growing tendency amongst transgender activists today is to denounce anyone who disagrees with them and argues against them, and just to label them all as transphobes. Yeah, that's not actually specific to transgender activists, though. That I tend to see that pattern happening a lot nowadays, where if somebody just doesn't agree with you, they'll just flat out call you homophobic or a racist or something like that. Somebody called me homophobic recently when we were talking about HIV, but I don't give a shit. I know I'm not, so fuck them. Martina Navratilova has also highlighted her friendship with Renee Richards, who is a transgender tennis player who campaigned to play in the Women's US Open way back in 1977. Renee Richards was originally born Richard Raskind. She was an ophthalmologist and an amateur tennis player who underwent sexual realignment surgery, competed in her mid-40s on the women's professional tour, even ranking as high as 20th in the world. Renee Richards said, "I think transsexuals have every right to play." Correct. Just not on a professional level, as it's not a level playing field. Also correct. If I had had the surgery at 22 and at 24 went on tour, no genetic woman in the world would have even come close to me. And that's coming from somebody who has actually gone through this. Martina Navratilova actually asked Renee Richards to coach her. They've been friends for a very long time, so how the fuck can she be transphobic? Now, Athlete Ally hasn't actually gone after Renee Richards or any of her comments agreeing with Martina Navratilova, showing that they are discriminating between the two of them. So a group hell-bent on destroying discrimination is discriminating. So after all of this, it's hardly likely that Navratilova, a lesbian who came out at a time when her decision surely would have cost her endorsements and sponsorships and other opportunities, employed a transgender woman as her coach when trans people were virtually unheard of in the public sphere, is an anti-trans bigot. It just doesn't fit. It just doesn't fit. It just doesn't fit. It just is fucked. So who's right? Well, Martina Navratilova is right. Maybe there won't be those who transition for sports purposes only, although it is possible. But as much as people want to deny the obvious physical difference between men and women, they're not going to go away. Any man who transitions to a woman after the age of 5 is going to have a stronger bone structure than a girl, will have stronger muscles, will have a stronger tensile strength than any woman. Sports for men and women are separate for these exact fucking physical differences. Ultimately, women are not going to be able to fairly compete against men in any sport in which muscle and strength of bone density are crucial elements, i.e. tennis, running, swimming, boxing, MMA, UFC. That hasn't stopped Fallon Fox from just getting a new boxing license after fucking manhandling women in the octagon because the UFC doesn't want to turn around and say, actually, your bone density is fucking way high for a woman. We're not going to let you fight a biological woman because it would be unfair. They're stepping on eggshells, trying not to upset anybody, that real people are actually being hurt now. People like Athlete Ally, whose sole fucking purpose it is to stop shit like this happening, is fucking contributing to it. They're becoming the fucking Antifa of trans activists in sport. It's just fucking laughable. So ultimately, I think it follows that there should be a third category for trans people in sport to do justice to both the sport and the participants involved, because this just isn't fair. Athlete Ally seems to have gone on a fucking witch hunt of Martina Navratilova, and it's just not fucking fair when she is saying facts and they are not willing to admit or even acknowledge the facts. They're just going on what makes them look good and what makes them look the fucking best, what makes them look like the fucking heroes, attacking somebody who is very clearly not transphobic and is very clearly not a bigot. Some fucking ally